The recording. Okay, we are recording. So thank you so much for hopping on the line with me, taking the time to do this. I want to catch up with you and share your story with our folks. It's been a while.
It has been.
You are like a phenomenal success story for us and, of course, for yourself in your own life. So, folks, I want to introduce you to David Brower, also known as Papa.
There you go.
Voice talent, all around, successful audio entrepreneur, I guess I could call you, right?
Sure.
All right.
I'm even a podcaster now.
Terrific. So we'll talk all about that, David.
Yeah.
But let's start by just give us a little bit of your background. Like, how'd you get started in voiceover? And I'll just preface this by, I don't even remember when you first came to us, our programs for training.
2007.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So fast forward, and the reason I invited you to do this, and I'm so grateful, is because I consider you an example of what's possible when a person is focused. And, you know, I find that people are really encouraged to hear success stories.
You bet.
I think they identify. So just give us a little bit of background. What were you doing before 2007, and why'd you come to us, and how have things gone since then?
Sure. So I was in radio for a very long time and retired from radio in 2001. I went to work for the ninth largest automotive company in the country and as a marketing director, and I handled all the marketing, budgeting, creative, all that kind of stuff for, couple dozen stores in 12 different states. And so I did that for 6.5 years. And about 5.5 years into it, I told my wife, I said, well, my dream job would really be to do voiceover. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about building a small studio in the house, and I can start dabbling and maybe do this job for another year and then quit that and do voiceover full time? She said, well, sure, let's do that. So I built my small studio. I did some research on who I wanted to study with. You were the first one that had credibility that I decided to go with. It was a no-brainer. And so we started training with you and your folks. The boot camp in West Palm Beach, I still have lifelong friends from that boot camp that we stay in touch with all the time. And so fast forward to 2000, that was 2007. So in 2008, I got fired from my corporate job. And so I called my wife on the phone, and she said, well, we should probably pray about that. And so we did on our cell phones and decided to take a leap of faith and go into voiceover full time. So on April 30th, 2008, I was unemployed, and May 1st, 2008, I was a full-time voice actor.
That's awesome. Nothing like jumping in with 2 feet, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So what does your career look like? I mean, what are you doing these days? Because you're doing this full time.
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
A lot of my work's overseas, which is fascinating to me. I did, my strangest client is a strip mall in Pakistan.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a strip club in Pakistan. Better the mall than the club.
That's right.
Especially considering Pakistan's a Muslim country, right?
Exactly.
That'd be really weird.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I do commercials, on-hold messages. I've done probably 7 audiobooks. So I try to diversify, and I started off doing mostly automotive because that was my background and that's where my contacts were. And now I do very little automotive, which is interesting to me. And so, I've been blessed to do just a whole bunch of things in a whole bunch of different areas. And through that, from 2007, when I started training with you and your team, I think we trained together, probably 6 or 7 years off and on. And been to many of your events, many of your training seminars and online things. And I mean, I give you credit. If you go to my website, I also do voiceover coaching now for beginners. And so if you go to my website and you go to my voiceover coaching page, you'll see your picture and your bio at the very top, because you're the first person that I recommend for people to get into this craft.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic. So did you still drive your Harley?
I do. In fact, I went to my first FAFCon last fall in Charlotte, North Carolina, and rode my Harley there. So from Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah, FabCons, it's a sort of a, do they still do those? I know they weren't.
There's one more left. One more
those
left.
are sort of like a closed door peer coaching marketing session, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People get together, they exchange ideas about what's working.
Exactly.
Sort of, they call it a non-conference. So you're part of the whole voiceover community. But tell us a little bit, because I want people to understand what this means to you, David, to have this independence. You've got a large family, right? You've got grandkids, and you're a real family guy. You know, you're a man of faith. It's really important to you. You live in Colorado still, right?
Yep.
So tell us, like, what this transition means, because you're no longer. I mean, it's been a while. It probably seems like like ages ago, but you're no longer an employee, which has all of those uncertainties that, you know, people are uncomfortable with. So just talk a little bit about what this means to you.
Sure.
Like this.
Well, independent is the key word. You know, I mean, it's freedom to work as hard or as little as I want. Marketing is obviously a huge piece of being successful in anything in life. And one of the things that I learned from you way back in the early days was the three-legged stool, if you remember that. And so I share that with a lot of people who are interested in this, or any business really, saying that, you know, there's a three-legged stool, and one leg is your ability to communicate and share your gift. Another is ability to deliver a quality product. And the third leg of the stool is marketing. And if any one of those stools aren't there, guess what? The stool falls over and you land on your butt.
Yeah, because people confuse marketing with selling. What marketing really is making relationships with people.
That's exactly right.
Finding a core group of customers that you can serve and really getting to know them so that there's trust and confidence that you'll deliver and have their best interests. Because, you know, I also have a long, successful voiceover career, as everybody knows, and we are trusted vendors. I mean, people rely and depend on us, and they have they're working on multi-million-dollar projects, of which we're a tiny part, as you know, you are too, I'm sure. And so that is really what marketing is all about. It's engaging people so that they come to trust you. So what are some of the ways that you've done that, David, in your own career?
Well, first and foremost, that's one of the first things that you taught me when I worked with you and your team, because my head was in sales, marketing defined as sales, which is about as far from the truth as possible. It is about relationships. And so that's really been a gift in learning that from you. Referrals are huge to me. I get a lot of business out of referrals from happy customers, and I said, well, I'm really glad that you have this opportunity. Is there anybody else who you feel that could use my services?
Yeah, now let's talk a little bit about that, because I remember back when you came to our marketing conference, we shared, you were very gracious in letting us share I think we called it like the $60,000 signature file.
Something like that, yeah.
Do you still have that at the end of all your emails?
I don't right now, actually. I did that for probably, 6 or 7 years. So I do put it in personal notes to people, but I don't have as a part of my signature.
But tell them what you say exactly to people.
It's
like blessed by referrals, I grow my business like that, whatever it is.
Yeah. If if you're happy with, my business thrives on referrals.
Yeah.
And if you have confidence in my business, I'd appreciate a referral from you, and I'd be happy to reciprocate.
And just having that one thing in your signature file and now in your communications with people, you were able to trace that to tens of thousands of dollars worth of work, right?
I was. In my second year full-time, 62% of my business was from referrals.
Wow. How long did it take you, David, from that one, you quit your job one day and you started full-time the other, you took that leap of faith. How long did it take you before you could say that you were really able to support yourself with your voiceover business?
Well, I was very fortunate because my last day of employment was April 30th, 2008, and the company had invited me back to the corporate headquarters in Oregon for a retirement party for a longtime friend of mine, which I thought was very unusual, but was very gracious of them. And so while I was there, I had a meeting with the guy that fired me and signed him to a one-year contract, $1,000 a month guaranteed for a year. And then that evening, I went to a cocktail party and ran into the advertising agency from Reno, who works with a lot of their stores, and signed a retainer with them. So on my first day of full-time business, I was guaranteed 24 grand.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But see, so when that happens, obviously, I'm not going to encourage people to jump without a net.
Correct.
Different. But really, you have to have faith, and then there are more good things happen than not, I think.
Correct.
When you step out in faith and really in service of people, and you make the action. Because, I always like to tell people that the map appears when the car is in motion.
Well said.
You
right.
just want to get yourself good enough and really work the marketing plan that we share with you in our boot camps and other programs.
Yeah.
David is a living example that this works, and it's not very complicated.
It's
but the thing is that a lot of voice talent have not been in business life before.
Correct. And that's where the trust and authenticity comes in, and that's why I was attracted to you and the Great Voice Company very early on, because authenticity and integrity are two of my mainstays. I mean, if I can't train with people who have authenticity and integrity, then I'm out, and then I have to mirror that to my clients. They have to be able to recognize that fairly quickly, that I am what I say I am, and I'll deliver what I say I'll deliver.
Mm-hmm. And, your style, in listening to you speak, you have a very warm Americana sort of style, right? Is that primarily what you do? You have that quality of air in your voice.
Right.
So talk a little bit to people about that. Like, what did it take? Did you discover your signature style, or you knew what it was, or talk about that journey?
Well, the hardest part for me was getting rid of the radio voice, because I was in radio for a very long time.
Me too.
Getting rid of the announcer voice and all that kind of stuff. Occasionally, it's still a battle, but it just was something I truly had to concentrate on and work on, and try to learn from you and other people how to be conversational and get that radio guy out of my head. And once I started to become more conversational, real conversational, then I became softer, more breathy. My signature voice appeared naturally, and went from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's so warm. I could listen to you for hours. What are some of the audiobooks that you've done?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. Share My Wealth. The guy that used to own the San Diego Chargers, I want to be blank on his name. Dr. Henry Epps wrote a book on the history of Christianity from a chronological point of view, and so I did that. So I do things that are really interesting and not in the mainstream, really. I like doing true things, biography things. I've done Pain is the Pits.
Pain is the Pits.
Which is a book about pain, all the different kinds of pain, and how the best ways to diagnose that, and the best kind of doctors to look for, and those kinds of things. I've done several sports books for the Real NFL Network. I've done a couple of sports books, ebooks rather, for them. So just really varied stuff.
That's great. And what about your home studio? Tell us about that.
Since I'm a radio guy, I like my toys.
Yeah.
So I really have more than I need, but that's what I like.
Sure. We all do.
You know what I'm saying?
We have, guitarists have GAS, which is
right.
Guitar Acquisition Syndrome. We have MAS, which is Microphone Acquisition Syndrome,
and
right?
And my dear friend, we've been friends for a long time. We call it, we use GAS, but it's Gear Acquisition Syndrome. There you go. Right?
So talk us about what kind of mic is that you're talking into? It's interesting looking.
It's a Neumann KMR 81.
Yeah.
Shotgun mic, and then I have a Rode NT1A that I just had converted into a U87. And
how do you do that?
There's a guy that does that for $399.
What?
and you can't tell the difference. I had George Whittam in my studio a few weeks ago to
He
tweak
said George,
my gear.
for people who don't know, is the studio expert. We've had him. He tweets the studio. He's great. He's terrific. So wait a minute. You want to share this?
He was blown away by it. Yeah. Gosh, let me think what
Tell
it
me
is.
offline, and
I'll tell you. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
So you converted. So what did he like? He like works in the innards of your mic, and
So I send him my microphone, and he guarantees the turnaround in whatever it is, a couple of weeks, $399. He's done 4,000 of them.
It's
joke. The real deal, and so I have it set up so I use that strictly for narrations, and then I use my Neumann for everything else.
That Neumann, your Neumann
shotgun
mic.
Yeah.
You're near Neumann.
And then I have a Rode Sennheiser 416 that I use on my travel studio. Yeah,
that's great. Now let's talk about that in a second. But first, what is that pop screen? I've never seen one like that.
Yeah, it's just it's literally you clip it onto your mic holder
for a shotgun,
and just for a shotgun. Yeah,
that's great.
It just rests there, and it's double layer, and it works just perfectly. And it's like $10-12. There's nothing to it.
I know. I love. That's what I love about home studios today.
Yeah,
there are so many. I mean, I have my favorite microphone stand that I travel with is like cost me $10. You know, I use an Apogee. It's a $200 microphone when I travel, and it emulates everything. It sounds terrific. So let's talk about you and travel, because when last we connected, you said because you and you're very active in the prostate cancer awareness and fight against that, and you and your wife hit the road. You guys, what you told me was you guys get on your Harley and you put your portable studio in the back in the saddlebag or whatever it's called, and you hit the road and record at night in motels. Just tell people, walk them through what that's like what kind of travel gear do you use, and what's it like?
Well, it's grown over the years. I used to use just a tablet with a couple of really inexpensive interfaces that worked well on the short term, and now I've just elevated a little bit more sophisticated for me. I use an Apollo Twin Mark II in my studio now. I got rid of the big, huge mixing board that I used to have, and so I'll take that on the road with me because it has all the settings for my microphones in there.
What is it called again? The what twin?
It's the Apollo Twin Mark II. And it's the newest state-of-the-art mixer, where my huge mixing board took up most of my desktop, right? It was huge. Well, this thing is maybe 8 by 10 inches.
So it fits in the back of a motorcycle.
Yep. So everything I have fits in a small suitcase.
Wow. And so you have that. And what mic do you take on the road?
The 416.
And so it's not a USB mic, obviously.
No, it's not.
Plugs into the preamp.
Yep.
That mixer that you have. That's so cool. And headphones, obviously.
Yeah.
And what do you do for soundproofing on the road? That's the piece that's always the challenge, making sure that things are quiet enough. Like how do you handle that?
And that too has graduated over the years. What I use now, in fact, I house sat for my son in Florida for a couple of weeks, and I set this up. I get an ironing board, which is available in every motel room. I get a heavy blanket or quilt, which is available in every motel room, or you can get it from the front desk. I lay that over the ironing board so it acts as a backdrop behind the ironing board. It falls down behind the ironing board.
Right.
I take 4 or 5 pillows and surround both legs of the ironing board up against that quilt. And then I set my mic and my equipment in amongst those pillows, and it works brilliantly.
That is so. What do? Set the ironing board on the desk in the hotel?
Yep.
That is so brilliant. That is so cool. You don't have to lug anything. You just
I don't lug anything for soundproofing.
Yeah, you just take the quilt. Thank you for sharing that, because I also kind of did a thing with pillows, but the ironing board is the piece that's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Just hang it right over. And what do? You adjust it so it fits on the desk and gets smallish.
Yep.
Set it on there, sit the quilt over that, and then stick wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, exactly right.
And then make sure you turn off the air conditioning in the room, obviously.
That's right. That's right.
And ask for a quiet room away from the pool and the elevator.
Well, and as close to their Wi-Fi router as you can get.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so I found one place on my last 2-week trip. I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was Kentucky. And so they set me up in the room that was closest to their Wi-Fi router. Well, the only way the Wi-Fi would work is if I stood over by the door coming into my room. It didn't work from the desk.
With some tinfoil on your head.
Right? So I bought they look like rabbit ears, actually. I bought a Wi-Fi extender. And so now I take that with me. So even if the Wi-Fi is a little weak, this will boost it up for me so I don't have any more of those issues.
That's a really cool thing. In fact, I need that in my house. How big are those and how expensive are those?
It's like a little, gosh, it's maybe 2 or 3 inches square with 2 small rabbit ears coming up that you adjust to get, super tiny. And I want to say it was under $100. It was nothing for what it does.
These are the kinds of things that these are little tricks of the trade that you get around here at greatvoice.com.
Yeah, that's right.
One final question, then I'll let you go. Do you ever use, a lot of people are using those Chaotica eyeballs. In fact, we use one in our studio. Have you tried those out?
I tried one once and I sold it.
You sold it. They're expensive. It didn't give you what you were looking for?
No, it didn't. And I thought it would work with a Technica A22, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And so I tried it, and it just wasn't a match for my voice and those kinds of things. But I know a lot of people that love them.
Yeah, we use it. I like it.
Yeah.
It makes it. I have one inside my voice booth here.
Yeah.
Where we use a whisper room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the point is that I think what David is saying, and I don't want any newcomers to be intimidated by all this gear he's flinging around.
No, absolutely.
That's for my satisfaction, and hopefully there's a couple of gearheads on the line that will like that. But if you're just starting out, you are fine with a USB microphone and some inexpensive software, a pop filter, and some headphones. Don't you think?
That's it. That's exactly it. And there's so many choices for editing software. Many of them are free, and so you try them, several of them out until you find the one that works with your brain, and that's the one you use.
That's well said. I mean, I love Twisted Wave on my Mac, and we have PCs here, and we use SoundForge. You really don't need anything more than that. You don't need to go crazy with what's that big one? Pro Tools, which is
which I use a lot, but that's stuff that I use. But yeah, you can start out, have really good quality stuff. If you already have a laptop, you can get everything you need for less than $1,000.
Even less than, even 500 or less, 300. Depends on. It's all about the mic.
Depends on the microphone. That's right. Yep.
So, David, this has been, thank you so much. You're so generous with your time, and I just love seeing you, and you're just such a success story. His website is davidbrower.com. Your website.
VO. David Brower VO.
David Brower VO. BROWER.com.
Yep.
It's a beautiful site, by the way.
Thank you.
Always had great, you have a really wonderful aesthetic sense, and you understand clarity because you have a marketing background.
Yeah.
Haven't created anything, complicated or overly showy. It's right to the point, but looks professional. It's terrific, David.
Thank you.
So,
I'm not a big fan of brain surgery, so.
No, me neither. I am totally unemployable. This is what I do.
Exactly right.
It's so great to see you.
You too, my friend.
Thank you for your time, David.
Anytime.
Hang on here for a minute. I'm just going to stop the recording. And guys, we'll see you soon. Hopefully you can check out our next boot camp. You can see right on this page all the
Be sure to go to it. It's worth every penny.
Thank you, David.